Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday morning for a virtual TL Insider Pancake Masterclass. This is our first one with Donna Dooher, owner and head chef of Mildred's Temple Kitchen, as part of our Future of the Restaurant Industry Summit in partnership with Uber Eats. With over 30 years of professional experience in the kitchen, Chef Donna has established herself as a prominent figure in the hospitality community. Having owned several successful hospitality businesses, including Mildred's Temple Kitchen, she has been credited as the reason brunch became a culinary trend in Canada. I can't wait to go back to real life brunches one day. Some quick housekeeping notes. Please make sure to ask any questions or leave any comments you may have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions throughout the class. Now, we are so excited about this one. Thank you so much for your time, Donna, this morning. Take it away.
Well, good morning, Chantel. I'm delighted to be here. Such a gorgeous day. I know we have to stay at home here in Toronto. That's a bit tragic, but it needs to be done. So I recommend you roll up your sleeves and spend this next lockdown in cooking bliss, because really there's nothing as satisfying as cooking from scratch and making really wonderful dishes for not just yourself, but those people that are inside your bubble. Everybody will be much happier. And speaking of happiness, our pancakes have in fact been making people happy since 1989 here in Toronto, and now right across the country, and who knows, perhaps the world and the universe. Global happiness domination. So today I'm going to walk you through the very easy steps of our pancake. We do share the recipe with everybody. It's out there on the big worldwide net. And, we just encourage you to get into your kitchen and try it yourself. One thing I will say about pancakes, you need to practice a little bit. So if this is your very first time, if you're a pancake making virgin, don't be too hard on yourself if that first round of pancakes isn't quite up to your standard. Practice makes perfect. That is certainly true in the kitchen. So we'll just roll up our sleeves and get started. First thing is make sure you wear a black shirt when you go into the kitchen to start cooking with flour. I always manage to do that. I'm just going to add a little note here. We're going to make this recipe from scratch, which is actually from our Out to Brunch cookbook. And this is one of the original copies that has been in the kitchen for years. You can see it's very well used and loved. The recipe is in there. The recipe is on our website. And for those of you who really, just don't have the time, we now sell it in our restaurant, in our pantry, the batter ready to go, the dry mix. So you just have to add the wet ingredients. So that helps a lot too. But today we're going to make it from scratch. So let me see if I can remember exactly all the ingredients. We start with our dry, and that's 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I've been using organic flour lately from trying to get local mills, and I find it makes a big difference to the flavor of the pancake. So your ingredients are very important. Now you notice that I'm using a whisk to aerate the flour and just lighten it up and put some air in it, especially, some flour sits on the shelf for a bit, so you need to bring it back to life. And this is a great little tip. We do this in the professional kitchen, especially when you're baking pies and cakes and things like that. So we've got some baking soda and baking powder. I believe it's 2 and a quarter baking powder and a quarter baking soda. You think I would know this off the top of my head because we make a lot of pancakes at the restaurant, which we're doing today, as a matter of fact. We're open for service, for takeout. A little bit of salt. Now, I like to do what I call Italian pinches, very generous pinch of salt, but you can certainly adjust that as you see fit. So now we've got our dry ingredients. I'm just going to put these over here for a minute, because the next thing will be the wet ingredients. Now, it is important that you get all the wet together and then you add them to the dry. So I'll need another bowl. Of course, I thought I had all my bowls. So make a little noise here. There we go. I have 2 cups of buttermilk right here. And I think that the dairies out there in Ontario have gotten wise to our pancake recipe. And you can now buy, let me see if I get this right. Yes, right here. There we go. Up here. Harmony does buttermilk now in 500 ml containers, which is 2 cups. And that means you've got just enough for one recipe. So that's kind of a nice treat. I also like to use the spatula. Spatula is one of my favorite tools next to my hands. Any kind of spatula. I have a thing for spatulas, but always get as many bits out as you can. Now we're going to crack into fresh eggs. Try to minimize the shells. Hey, we all do it. Listen, I do it. We all do it. We're not perfect in the kitchen. You take that spatula or that whisk, give this a little whisk. We're not looking to make a souffle. So all we want to do is break up the eggs and mix them thoroughly.
And Donna, we have a quick question for you. How many pancakes will this serve? How many will you make here?
This will make 12 perfect pancakes. Of course, it all depends on the size that you make your pancakes, but when it comes time to putting them on the grill, I'll show you the size we do. And you can make minis or big guys, but it really depends on the size that you opt for. But I say it makes about 12 4-inch pancakes. That would be my recommendation.
Great.
So now we've got the eggs, we've got the buttermilk, and we've got the melted butter. You saw me put in melted butter, and we use unsalted butter. Now we have essentially some dry ingredients and some wet ingredients. And this is an important step in making pancakes. A great pancake is incorporating these 2 together. First of all, we want lumps. Lumps are good in pancakes. You know, there are some dishes where you don't want lumps. If you were making crepes, for example, you'd want a very thin batter and you don't want any lumps. But for this type of pancake, this is a very thick, dense, fluffy pancake. We want those lumps. So that means we're going to add the wet to the dry. I'll get the spatula back and we'll just pop this in. And again, use your rubber spat to make sure you get all those bits. They're important. Waste. And now we start to mix slowly. And it's very gentle. You can even see bits of flour. It's okay if you have those little white bits off the spatula. Now, at the restaurant, we would make this in very large batches. Probably one batch would be 3 liters of buttermilk, and it's like a giant pail. And we'd make that probably 5 or 6 times during a service. So we make a lot of pancakes at Mildred's Temple Kitchen, and our team that works on the line, they are pancake experts. They just crank those pancakes out, and I'm always so impressed that they get the timing. They've got the grills all lined up with pancakes. Now you can see right away that it's being activated, this mix. What's happening is the buttermilk, the acid in the buttermilk is activating your baking soda and your baking powder. Now, I'm not going to mix it any more than this. I think that's good. And again, you can see it's very lumpy and thick. And there you've got it. That's pretty darn easy, isn't it? Even easier if you use the pancake mix.
Donna, is the sugar in already? A couple people were asking if the sugar is in.
Of course there's sugar. I forgot the sugar. Thank you. A very good, paying attention, viewers. Yes, there should be sugar in it. There doesn't have to be, but you know, it doesn't hurt. So let me just pull this sugar out. And I think it's okay to add it in at this point. You know, I quite often forget stuff. I just don't know. You know, when you work in a professional kitchen, somebody does all the mise en place for you, put it all together. It's very glamorous. And someone cleans up for you. So let me, I can't remember off the top of my head how much sugar's in there, but I'm just going to wing it, you know, cook from the heart. That's okay. And we'll add some sugar. And there you go. Thank you for pointing that out. Wow. It'll just change the flavor profile. That's all. Just make them a little bit sweeter. Okay.
It doesn't change the consistency of the pancake.
No, sugar won't have an impact. And the active ingredients here are the buttermilk, the baking soda, and the baking powder. And that's what, zoom, when you put those together, they just, you know, they pop. Okay. Chantel, we're good?
Yes, you're good. And we also just shared the recipe in the chat box. So if anyone didn't get it in the email or didn't have access to it, we just shared it again. So you'll have access to the recipe if you're not making it right now. So you're good. And we have another question. How long do you leave the batter? Can you leave it for a little while? Will that change?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. It does change. And I actually find if you let it stand for just a little bit, you know, maybe 10 minutes before you start dropping it on the griddle, then you're going to get really nice results. If you're not going to use it right away, you could put it in the fridge and maybe hold it for 20 or 30 minutes. But, you know, it's not the kind of batter that you would just have on hand in the refrigerator, pull out anytime. That's not to say you can't do it, but you just won't get the same high results that, you know, it'll start to diminish. But what I recommend you do is you get the batter made, put it aside, and then you start to heat up your cooking surface. And that's the next important step when it comes to making pancakes. What kind of surface do you want to cook on? But before we get to that, I just want to show you using an ice cream scoop, you know, something like this is very helpful because you get the same size of pancake every time. And that means when you're cooking them and you've got more than one on the grill, they're all going to cook at the same temperature. You get the same results. So depending on the size of your pancake, you know, the size of your scoop will change. You don't have to, but it's helpful. And if you are using a scoop, get some warm water, because after every scoop, you should clean up and it lets the batter drop onto the pancakes. Now I'm going to use a small, because I can't walk over to the stove with my camera crew is not here today. So we're improvising a bit. I'm just going to use a small burner to show you how to cook the pancake itself. So let's just quickly talk about surfaces. I think that cast iron is your best bet. You can see we've got heavy duty cast iron pan. I'm going to put it on a fairly high heat. Make sure the pan is seasoned really well. And if you're investing in cast iron, which I highly recommend you do, you know, I always say you need a mix of cooking surfaces in your pots and pan portfolio. It's like your stock portfolio. You know, you don't want everything to be stainless steel and everything to be copper or everything to be cast iron. You need to mix it up a little bit. So that's important to bear in mind. So while that's heating up, I'm going to make sure I have my computer charging as we need. And there we go.
Donna, would you happen to know where we can purchase Harmony milk, the buttermilk?
Yes, Fiesta Gardens, or Fiesta Farms. They sell all the Harmony products, Organic Garage. There are a lot of little small shops. I do a lot of my shopping personally on Roncesvalles. It's my hood. And all those little, wonderful little shops, you know, that are along Roncesvalles, they sell a lot of those products. So that's good news. Now, Chantel, I just want to show everybody quickly. This is the kind of pan I would use at home if I'm cooking, because I want to get a lot of pancakes on the surface. But for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to use this guy, this little guy. So I'm going to put some butter. Where did my butter go? There we go. I'm going to put a little.
What would you name that pan, that flat pan? It must have a name, right?
I call it a flat griddle. You could just, And Lodge makes very good cast iron. It's made in the US, great product, very good quality. Doesn't require a lot of seasoning because seasoning is maintenance. But again, it's a worthwhile investment. And they have all kinds of shapes and sizes. You can get rectangular ones and square ones and whatnot. Now you can see I've got a good smoke coming off of this. So I'm going to turn the heat off altogether. That's why we love gas, because we can come on and off the heat really easily. But I think it's time to drop some pancake batter. Here's the moment we've all been waiting for, isn't it? So the other thing about making pancakes, chances are you're going to be making them for more than one. So you might double your batter, or you'll have one batch going. So you can make the pancakes, whether it's one at a time, which can be a bit slow, but if you're making 3 at a time, for example, just keep a warm oven going with a sheet pan and parchment paper, and just keep your pancakes warm in there, and that works beautifully. Okay, how do you know when the pan is hot enough? This is the number one question that we get. So we don't know. We don't, and we're not going to stick our finger on it, but we'll drop a little bit of batter on there, and what you want to hear is a bit of sizzle. That's a good sign. So I always do a little tester, and then you get to eat that guy while you're cooking the rest of the pancakes. And the heat is really going to be medium to low, not too hot, because this is a dense pancake. It's thick. It's very light. Not thick, light, but it is. But it needs time to cook through. So you've got to really, I always say pans are like lovers. You have to understand how they behave. So what kind of reaction would this pan have to a medium heat as opposed to a non-stick pan or a stainless steel pan? So that's why I say you've got to practice a little bit. Practice makes perfect. Now we need an offset spatula, which I put here somewhere. And let me see, Chantal. It's disappeared, but that's okay. Oh, I've just been told it's in the sink. Yes, that's where it is. Okay. Offset spatulas. This is a big guy for such a little pancake, but I'm going to go in. Now, I can see just by looking at this, the pan is a bit too hot. So again, I'm going to turn it right off. But the pancake, that little guy is cooking right up. But I think it's time to just jump in there and start to make pancakes, all right? Keep checking the temperature of the pan. There's our little guy, very cute, look at that. I love to do mini pancakes with the kids. And when I'm making pancakes with kids, and we're all going to be home with our kids over the next few weeks, it's fun to get in the kitchen and make pancakes as a family. I love to do that. Actually, my grandson, who's 18 months old, makes perfect pancakes. How did he do that? I was so impressed. Because he watched. He learned from the master, I guess. Okay.
That's too cute. So would you suggest, how much butter would you put in the pan? How much did you throw in there?
So I put about a teaspoon, and I like to use clarified butter in the pan as opposed to just regular butter. And I have a bit here. And it's just got a higher melt temperature, higher heat temperature. And now some batter is going to go down. Here we go. Moment of truth. Again, I can hear that. I can hear that sizzle. Give it a little spread. And the same with this. These guys are going to be conjoined pancakes, but that's because my pan is a bit snuggly.
And you usually don't put the fruits in the batter just yet, right? That'll just go on top. That's
a good point, Chantal. So when do you add your fruit? At the restaurant, we do wild blueberry pancakes. We put wild blueberries. We love wild blueberries on anything, basically. But we think there's a magic that happens between our pancake batter, wild blueberries, and our maple syrup, which we'll talk about in a moment or so. And it's important to add the fruit at the right time, whether it's blueberries or raspberries or bananas, whatever it is you want to add to your pancakes, you're going to add them just before you're ready to flip. Now I can see there's a lot of smoke coming off. These are very hard to regulate the temperature on these little guys. So my flip might be a little challenging, but I'm going to pull them apart. When to flip, when to add the fruit. I would start to look for little holes that are popping up. You can see these little craters that are bubbling up, and that's telling you you're getting close to flipping time. And this would also be the time that you could add some fruit to it. So we are going to put some of our blueberry compote in, and we also sell this in jars too. So, you know, we're trying to make it very easy for people to make the pancakes at home and enjoy them at home. I can smell them. I think my intuition is telling me my pan was too hot on the bottom, but that's not going to stop me from eating these pancakes, let me tell you. All right, we're ready for a flip. Gotta get right under there, and don't be afraid. Go for it. So once we flip, the pancakes really start to rise. They're really, really going to get some volume. Again, this pan's a little bit tight, but I wanted to just give you an idea. Maybe I'll make the next batch. Now getting under here, Donna, that's going to be a little tricky. You got to get under there. Don't be afraid. Ready, and one flip. Spread them out. There we go. The heat back on because I did shut the heat off. Now again, these cast iron pans, what we love about them is that they really hold the heat. So you can play around with pulling them on or off, whether it's an electric stove. You can use cast iron on induction too, for those of you who cook with induction at home. And but they hold the heat really well, and they distribute the heat evenly. And that's what you need when you're making something like a pancake. So look at that, they're there. Now, how do you know when they're cooked? That's the next question that people always ask. How do you know when your pancakes are done? And that's a very good question. You're going to start to see these holes developing along the sides of the pancakes. And you know, it's always good to do the touch test. So we go in there and give it a little touch. And of course, wash your hands after you do that. At the restaurant, because we probably have, anywhere from 75 to 120 pancakes across the grill at one time. The team who are cooking at the restaurant are very intuitive as to when it's time to flip the pancake. And that's the intuition that you'll develop when you're making pancakes every day at home for the next 30 days. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just checking again because I think we're getting pretty close to being cooked. I'm going to turn this heat off. As I mentioned, you can cook the pancakes and hold them in the oven. And I've done a batch ahead of time, and I'm just going to pull it out and show you what they look like. Now, these I did on this big flat round. There was a lot more space for them to cook. Let's see if we can get them right into the picture. So these have been in the wings waiting to be plated. I can hardly wait to jump in. Try some myself. And I think I'll pull these guys off now. I'll just take this pan right off, and we'll have a look at the bottom here.
Donna, at the restaurant, do you usually, at Mildred's, do you usually use compote or fresh blueberries in the pancakes?
So in the pancakes themselves, we use fresh or frozen because obviously we can't get wild blueberries all the time. But you can use the compote. And today that's what I've done, just to show people that it's very easy to do the compote. But yeah, for sure, you can really, sky's the limit with pancakes. Sky is the limit. So I would say these are done. So I'm going to pop them over onto the tray that we've already taken out of the, yeah, they look great. And then I shall plate the pancake because that's really important. How do we get this stacked together? I would say your cooking surface, though, is really key to making a good pancake. So consider, if you are going to become an expert pancake maker, you really need to find the right pan to perfect your pancake, to find pancake perfection. Of course, another thing that makes our pancakes superb is the maple syrup. Now, this is what the pancakes look like when they're off the grill, and got a little bit of that. Oops, there we go. There we go. Okay, so I think 3 is a great stack. Looks good. And we need to put on here the compote, Lanark County maple syrup, which we get from, Donna's having a little trouble here with her, oh yes, I'm over on this one. There we go. This maple syrup we've been buying for over 20 years from a farm in Lanark County, Ontario, which is just outside of Ottawa. And honestly, it's like magic. I think, the fairies run through the bush there and sprinkle something on the trees, but it is really the crowning glory of our pancakes. There are a lot of steps along the way that make the pancakes great, but this would, I would say, is it. So be generous with your maple syrup. Do not be stingy. And we're going to just douse this with syrup, because you want the pancakes. And at the restaurant, actually what they do is they layer it. It's kind of like half and half French fries. When you go to the chip wagon, they ask you, do you want half and half? So they put half the fries in the bag, and then they put the vinegar and salt, and then they put the rest on top, so that all the chips get a crack at it. We do the same at the restaurant. We start with 2 pancakes down, and then we put some maple syrup, 3rd pancake down, more maple syrup, and then we get the whipped cream, which I have in the fridge, ready to go. And also, the nice thing about pancakes, you get yourself set up the night before, whip your cream, measure your ingredients, get everything set up, and you've got your mise en place ready, and off you go the next day. It's very easy for you to jump in there and get making pancakes. So be generous with the whipped cream. And I like to whip it into soft peaks, not too stiff, but you want it to hold the compote. And now we're going to pop the compote on the top, like so, and just kind of let it drape across there. Oh, what do you think? Pretty good. And then the last thing is just a little sprinkle of icing sugar, because, why not? And there we have perfect pancakes. There you go.
Wow, those look amazing, Donna.
I know. I think I'm going to have to eat these for breakfast.
Yeah, you'll have to. 2 quick questions. White sugar, can you use brown or cane sugar instead in your recipe?
You can. Now, it might change the texture of the pancake a little bit. I mean, you might have a little more texture to your pancake, but yeah, absolutely. No issues there whatsoever. Mm-hmm.
And then if you have leftovers, if any, what would you say is the best way to store your pancakes?
Well, it's rare there are leftovers, but yes, Sometimes there are leftovers. And honestly, I would just wrap them up and put them in the fridge if you're going to eat them the next day, and you can warm them back up. Some people put them in the toaster, and they just pop them into the toaster, warm up, and then you just go through these steps. We don't do it at the restaurant because we make pancakes fresh every day. But I know some of our staff, we eat a lot of pancakes at Mildred's Temple Kitchen. They have experimented with freezing their leftover pancakes, and then they would let those defrost and pop those in the toaster. So by all means, don't let your pancakes go to waste. And you can also use them to, if you're making a bread pudding or a brioche, you can tear them up, and they're a great base for that as well too. So we can always find something to do with leftover pancakes.
Of course. And then one last question. What is the brand of maple syrup that you mentioned? I know it is maple syrup season, so
yes. Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of maple syrup right now, but which one do you use?
So this comes from golden maple orchards in Leonard County. We buy syrup from them exclusively. They don't sell it anywhere else. We buy giant barrels of it, but we do sell this syrup at the restaurant. So you can buy it. You can buy it there through us. We've got lots of it, and it's been a good year for tapping trees. The trees have been very generous with their sap, and according to the guys back at the farm, it's been a good year for syrup. So, some years are tough and they don't get as good a yield. And I don't think people realize this, Chantel, but it takes 40 liters of sap to make 1 liter of syrup. And I know people, question the price of syrup sometimes. And, there's wonderful syrup from many parts of North America, but it's very expensive and labor intensive to make it. And you need a lot of sap to get a very small yield off of that. So be kind to your trees, be kind to your farmers who are making the syrup. And
I agree. No, you're right. And my grandfather actually owned a sugar shack. He just passed away a few years ago, but his son just took it over. But he built his land in Quebec and made maple syrup his entire life. And I saw, behind the scenes and all the work that's put into it. So, you should really appreciate it. And maple syrup is probably the best sugar out there. So
I love it. I love it. And I just drink the sap sometimes too.
It is. It's delicious. So thank you so much, Donna. This was amazing. Your pancakes look so delicious. They are absolutely beautiful. So we really appreciate your time this morning. So as part of the class, we offered actually a delicious maple theme contest from Toronto Market Co. Since it's maple season. So congratulations to Jeff Huey. We already emailed you. So check out your email to redeem your prize. Congrats again. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you to Uber Eats, and make sure to tune in on April 13th for a fireside chat on Empire Building with Janet Zaccarini, owner and CEO of Gusto 54 Group, and also followed by a trip to South Beach since we can't travel anywhere with El Cuisine. So make sure to stay tuned for all our amazing upcoming lineup of events this month in partnership with Uber Eats. So thank you again, Donna. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. And I hope you'll have a chance to get outside and enjoy the weather today.
Order pancakes.
Yes, exactly.
They're on Uber Eats.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank
Stay
you,
safe, everyone.